Hey everybody! Thank you for joining me for this live charcoal drawing session. Today I'm going to be sketching a pepper, an orange pepper, that is here in my studio right in front of me. And it's just been there for a few days because I've painted it with my Patreon supporters the other day, which was really fun. So if you want to watch how this pepper is rendered in color, you can certainly do that at patreon.com/KenGoshen or by visiting the link in my bio and clicking Patreon. But the reason that I'm doing this in charcoal today is because I have a charcoal workshop coming up, and during that workshop I decided that I was going to use a paper that I don't usually use. It's a great paper from Strathmore, but since I haven't used it in several years, I decided it would be responsible to do a little test to remind myself what this paper knows how to do and where the limitations are. And there's no better way to test a piece of equipment than to, get some drawing done or get some painting done, depending on what you're testing. And so far, so good. I'm enjoying the feel of the paper, and that's great news because I've already sent the supply list to everybody and recommended it. So that's really nice to see that it actually works as well as I remembered. And what's going to be most interesting to me, in order to explain what I'm trying to test here, is a few things. One, how erasable is the charcoal? That's something that when you're testing a paper, you want to make sure that you are doing, because for my process, the charcoal, being erasable is fairly important. I use the eraser a lot throughout my process, so I want to make sure that that's possible. And that's what I've been doing here with this piece of leather called chamois. It's made from deerskin, and it's a fantastic charcoal eraser. It's not as aggressive as this kind of eraser, the kneadable eraser, but it's quicker. So I want to make sure that the chamois, when applied to this paper, can remove the charcoal in a nice way, and it does, which is great. Oh, great news altogether. So it looks like this workshop's going to be super fun to work with this paper. So I'm really looking forward to it because I have a very ambitious drawing planned. And if I'm going to stumble across my supplies, then the ambitious drawing will not will not turn out the way I want it to turn out. So that's really great. And yeah, so that's one thing. I want to test the erasability of the paper. Another thing I want to test is how deep the values go. So once I feel relatively satisfied with the proportions of this pepper, I'm going to start taking it into a darker value realm. And, let's see how dark it could get. And I'm curious, not only how dark it could get, but also how many gradations I'm going to be able to achieve between my dark colors and my light colors. That's very important, because if I know roughly the amount of values that I have to work with, this really helps me strategize and decide how to plan my drawing, right? Because if we look at life has endless amounts of values, endless gradations between light and dark. But in drawing, if we can only capture 5, which is what I'm guessing I'm going to be able to do with this paper, maybe 6, then we need to make sure that we don't have false expectations from ourselves, thinking that we can do something that we can't do, because then we will make really poor decisions throughout the process, and nobody wants that. So I'm making it a little bit less fat. More fat, because I've made it too tall. And it's coming to the point where I'm okay with the proportions of this pepper. Let me just add the shadow shapes and see how that makes us feel. And then if we're happy with it, then we're going to move towards making these values more evident to bring us closer to what we're actually going to be looking at. Because of course, right now, this doesn't look at all three-dimensional, doesn't look at all like I have bright light in my studio, which I do, even though it's a rainy day. So yeah, these shadow shapes are integral for creating a feel of three-dimensionality. If you don't have shadow shape, then you're stuck in the flat zone. Let's see how it looks like when we just hint at this shadow. And if it looks okay, then we're going to go ahead and make these shadows much darker. Let's see. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Let's do a little bit more work on the shape of the stem because I've neglected it. Get this to be a little bit more precise. This is a little too high. Needs to come down over here. Something like this. Yeah. So, anyway, I'm talking about testing this paper for my workshop, but I didn't tell you how to register. So if you want to join my charcoal drawing workshop, you should go to kengoshen.com/lessons, or you can visit the link in my bio and click lessons. It's going to be really fun. We're going to learn how to draw in charcoal. We're going to do an ambitious project that we're going to continue over the span of 5 weeks. We meet once a day on Tuesdays. And we're just going to make a really, really fun drawing together. So if you want to draw alongside me and learn how to work with charcoal, go to kengoshen.com/lessons or visit the link in my bio and click lessons. Now we're far more happy with the shapes that are going on here. So I'm feeling fairly comfortable with the idea of making these values darker. And soon enough, we're going to learn what this paper can do for us in terms of dark values. Let's see. So let's shoot for the value that we're looking for here, far darker than this. And this is also an important moment to see how difficult is it to get a unified value from a paper, something that doesn't feel too noisy as it does right now, and to test the tools that are going to help me reach this goal. Like, do I need to smudge with my fingers? Can I smudge with a brush? Can I smudge with charcoal, how do you call it? A stump? I lost my English there for a second. In Hebrew, we call it mefazer pecham, which is the charcoal spreader. Yeah, let's see. We're going to have to try to do our best to get to a unified value before adding these extra ingredients, but they will really help us understand what the limits are with regards to this paper. So far, it's looking like it's taking the charcoal very easily, but that it's not the easiest to get to a very, very unified, smooth mark. Not the easiest thing. Let's see what happens if we use a brush on it. Okay. It's not a bad direction. I do like where this is going because the brush is pushing the charcoal dust into the little grooves of the paper between the teeth, and that's making it far more unified, way smoother, and much closer to what we're looking for. So it's likely that we're going to see this put to use during the workshop. That's going to be fun. And let's see what happens if we go on top of the white. Does it transfer over? It barely does, only a little bit. So that's an important test as well. Let's see. If I want to make this area not pure white, I'm going to have to probably do something like this. Go much lighter here. Yeah, that's probably what it's going to have to look like. And I have another tool that I really want to test to see how it works over here. So we're going to soon test out what the stump can do. I think the stump is going to allow me to press much more than I was able to do with the brush, because the brush, as you all know, bends. And sometimes if you really want to apply pressure to the charcoal, you need something that can withstand it. So let's see what that can do. First, I want to see what happens when I overlay this area with another layer of charcoal. Now it's actually taking much easier, so that's really nice to know. That after I've used the brush on the surface, it makes it even more hospitable to the charcoal. And by making these areas darker, I'm starting to suggest the existence of some reflections. This pepper is fairly reflective, shiny pepper. And it'd be nice to be able to capture some of that shininess. Now, all of this stem is going to be a little darker than the rest. And let's see what the stump can do. Ah, the stump is working really nicely. I think that's going to play a nice role in this process. A lot more control than I had with the brush. And it pushes the charcoal into the paper in a way that I can still control and still protect areas of the paper that I want to preserve as light. Like, for example, here, there's a highlight, and I'm not entirely sure that I want to make that area dark just yet. So I'm actually going to go ahead and make some eraser marks here to suggest that all this stuff needs to be a little lighter. Now let's see. Nice. Maybe we can take some questions. If you want, there's a question feature down there on the Instagram interface. Maybe you want to submit a question or two, and we can answer them as I work. So just navigate to where that is optional and submit some questions. I'm going to cover up my light masses here. It's almost a crazy thing to do, I know. But I'm going to do that in order to indicate for myself where the highlights are on this pepper. So one is definitely here, and here, and here, and then here. Helps me create these nuances throughout the light mass, actually working with the eraser. So I'm going to go again in the other direction to cover up these light areas and bring out the highlights again. There we go. It's really important to me to capture how reflective and glossy this material is. So the presence of the highlight becomes pretty important. Here I'm going to go with the brush because I'm actually trying to be very delicate with how I smudge this stuff. And the form is really starting to take shape now, which is fun, very fun. And also this paper is being, impressively patient with me, and it accepts the majority of what I'm trying to get done on it. So great. That's charcoal drawing paper from Strathmore. I think it's series 500. Yes, series 500. This is a very good paper if you want to learn how to draw in charcoal. It's working great. And so now after this layer, I feel the need to take this area much darker. And for that, I'm going to go back to my stump. That allows me more control than the brush did. And here I'm trying to be mindful to protect some areas that I don't like this. I'm a little worried about making them too dark, so like that. Did you submit questions, people? I'm gonna look to see soon, so make sure there's something fun to talk about. Okay. Making sure that this shape here of the back of the pepper looks okay. Now I'm going to go again at this entire thing. Because I do like giving it the energetic look, not the smudged look. So I don't like leaving areas just after they've been smudged to just exist as they are. I prefer to give it some more energy from some mark making. And again, cleaning up my highlight areas after having drenched everything in dark powder. And let's cross hatch over here throughout the edge. It would be nice to get some nice, how to call it, variations along the edge. Like here, it's a longer edge. So I'm gonna let this shape continue for a little bit. And then here, the edge is shorter. So I'm not gonna move my hand as much as I am moving it over here. I didn't forget about the questions. I'm just a little addicted to getting this done. I'm gonna get there. Wow, I can reach so many values on this paper. That's great. That's very fun. This means I can take this drawing so far in this workshop. That's going to be awesome. If you want to join my upcoming charcoal drawing workshop, where we're going to be using this Strathmore paper, you should go to kengoshen.com/lessons or visit the link in my bio and click lessons. Also, if you want to see how this pepper was done in color, I did it for my Patreon supporters. Video is already up at patreon.com/kengoshen. That's patreon.com/kengoshen. I'm also doing 2 more demos like this in December. And if you want to be invited to see me paint on Zoom, ask me questions, and have a nice conversation, that's just $2. What? Yes, just $2 on my Patreon, and you get invited to all these live events. And you know that your money is going towards helping me with all the projects that I'm doing. So if you want to be supportive in that way, visit patreon.com/kengoshen. And thanks in advance to everybody who does that. Now let's, I feel like I'm being lazy with the design of this stem. Definitely am kind of more interested in testing the glossiness of the pepper surface, but there's only so much I can get away with. Let's see how this erases. Wow, it can really remove it, huh? Oh, I'm in love with this paper. That's great. Strathmore really make good products. Definitely. Okay, that's great. Let's redefine this shape a little bit. Now it's coming to a point where I feel like I need to sharpen my charcoal stick, but don't want to leave you guys because you guys will leave me. I know how it's like in these lives. As soon as you pause to sharpen, everybody drops out. So I'm going to use the other side. Look at that. Just the other side. And then here, along this stem area, we have some lighter moments, which helps this thing stand out visually. So I'm going to add them. There we go. Okay, let's grab a question. Grabbing a question. What is the easiest way to start oil painting? I'm confused on whether you mean to start to learn oil painting or to start painting in oil. So I'm going to answer both. To start a painting in oil, I think the easiest way is to learn how to do an underpainting. And yeah, that's just a great way to set yourself up for success. And I have an underpainting demo on my YouTube. I have more than one there. So if you're interested in how to start a painting, I have a video that's literally titled How to Start a Painting on, youtube.com/Ken Goshen. I think that's how it is. So definitely go there. Now, if you're asking how is it best to start learning how to paint in oil, that's actually, whoops, I'm going to close the question. That's actually a good question, because I think the best way to start learning is to isolate the task of learning everything into individual exercises. So what do I mean by that? Don't try to learn it all at once. Both color and materiality and how to use your brush and how to use your palette, like all of this stuff is very complex. So try to really break it down. If I were you, I would just start by working with black and white or umber and white until I feel very, very comfortable with my brushes, with my materials, with my palette. And when all these things are no longer a concern, then it makes much more sense to start adding the rest of the colors. But I would start with as few materials as I can and then build my way towards more and more stuff in my toolbox. Okay, I'm gonna test. This could be ruining the drawing right now. I'm gonna test if I smudge this, if I can get it even darker. I don't know that, but that's exactly why we're here, to try. So let's see what happens if I smudge this, if I can bring it into a deeper value still. So, cross my fingers that I didn't just ruin everything. We shall see, because once you smudge an area, it becomes much more permanent. So if I decide that this was a bad move and I want to remove all this charcoal, that's not coming off easy, for sure. So let's keep our hopes up. Let's see what happens when I try to apply more charcoal. Does it still get darker? Ooh, just barely, but it does. Just barely. That's not gonna be possible more than this, I think. So how many times did I smudge it? Like 3 or 4? That's probably as much as this can take without failing on us. So it's great to know this in advance, because I'm gonna use this paper for my workshop, so I don't want to be caught off guard. That's great. Okay, I'm going to take another question soon. So you can navigate to the question function and submit them. And soon enough, we will address them. This should be a little lower here. This is very fun. And I hope that you're noticing that I'm not using my stump in order to soften edges. I'm using it just to unify a dark area, and then I can reapply charcoal right on top of it. So that's pretty important, because when you rely on the stump in order to make your edges soft, then you're taking a shortcut that has a lot of aesthetic consequences that I think are almost entirely negative. So you want to be careful not to do that. Cleaning this up again. And now I'm going to try to do something interesting with my Shami eraser. Let's see if I can simplify my light masses here by just doing some eraser work. Haha! Coming to light. This is great. What I love so much about charcoal is how much you can apply and then remove, and getting the feel that gives is so fun. At least I think it is so fun. Removing, removing, removing. Even here, remove a little bit. I'm gonna remove some with my finger. I'm not smudging, I'm just tapping. See, all the charcoal goes onto my pinky. I don't want to smudge, I just want to erase. All right, it's getting pretty okay over here, I think. I'm not unhappy with it. I still am too lazy about the stem. I just don't I don't feel like drawing it. There's too much stuff going on there. I'm just trying to test this paper. Now the stem is like, you know, giving me faces, making me feel like I'm irresponsible for leaving it behind. So I might need to kind of give it some attention. And cleaning this up again. These highlights, they have to stay pretty white because they're very shimmering in the pepper in front of me, so I'm giving them the respect they deserve in terms of their high value. Now let's see, maybe for this stem I'm gonna use some pencil charcoal. That's not soft enough. That's the 2B. I might want to use something a little softer than this in order to easily make it dark. The softer a material is, the easier it is to bring it down to its lowest value more or less immediately. Let's grab a question here. Let's see. Here we go. What kind of brush would you recommend for charcoal? I would recommend a bristle brush, something that has hard fibers, because as you saw, even when I was using a bristle brush that had hard fibers, I still needed to apply more pressure at some points, and therefore I was persuaded to use my stump instead. That's the issue. When you use a brush for charcoal, you want to make sure that you use a brush that can allow you to exert as much pressure as you need. And for that reason, the soft brush does much, much, much better. I'm sorry, the hard brush does much, much, much better than the soft brush. This thing is too dark. Gotta bring it a little lower. That was too much. Yeah, this pencil's is not soft enough. I need something softer. Let me bring it up to 6B. Oh, 4B. I'm gonna go with 4B. Okay, that's much better. Much better. There we go. Making it feel more lit over here. Yeah, and the pencil is gonna allow me to get more of this definition done because these are pretty small areas. So the charcoal stick was a little too clumsy to get them done adequately. Here, we need to redefine that shape like so. And soften up this edge here a little bit. Yeah, here we're really hitting the edge of the paper's capability. It's looking like I've done as much layering as I can, so I need to start being a little bit more mindful about the decisions that I'm making because the paper is losing its patience with me. And of course, this is because I'm being purposefully aggressive because I'm trying to check how far this paper can go. But it's good to know where the party ends, you might say. How far you can take your aggression onto the paper before the paper starts fighting back. Here we go. Just a little bit more detail over here. Some more variation. This does not need to be so light. I love the sound on the paper. That's super fun. Yes. Wow, this is going to be such a fun drawing to work on in the workshop. Can't wait. Now, I want to make sure that this doesn't look like I'm doing a contour around the stem. I'm allergic to that idea. Don't want to get that feeling. Okay. Tap, tap, tap. If you don't want to create a smudging effect, just tap. Both with your finger or with the eraser. Tapping is very, very useful way to make marks with the eraser. Can I push it even more? Yeah, that's the kind of sound that you don't necessarily want to hear. When it's like, that's not good. You want it like, so that means I'm really pushing this paper beyond what it's comfortable with. This is not the sound you're going for, so the paper is gonna have to forgive me because if I don't push all the way there, I'm not going to know where I need to stop, right? That's something very important to be doing in your studio, to test your materials before you work on some important project. You want to make sure that you know what your materials can and cannot do so that you stay within the parameters of success. Highly recommend it. Okay. I think that will do. I'm pretty happy with it. So, thanks to everybody who joined me for this nice drawing live session. And if you want to join my upcoming charcoal drawing workshop, simply go to kengoshen.com/lessons or visit the link in my bio and click lessons. That's it. See you next time.